On May 14, 2008, 19-year-old college student Brandon Swanson disappeared in rural Minnesota. There was no reported crime, no signs of violence, and no indication that Brandon intended to disappear voluntarily. What makes this case unusual is not only the disappearance itself, but the fact that Brandon was actively communicating with his parents by phone while attempting to reach safety. This investigation examines the confirmed timeline, decisions made during the incident, law enforcement response, and the critical failures that prevented resolution. The goal is not speculation, but analysis, how a situation with multiple opportunities for recovery ultimately failed. Brandon Swanson was a student at Minnesota West Community and Technical College. Friends and family consistently described him as responsible, cautious, and reliable. There is no evidence that Brandon struggled with substance abuse, violent behavior, or serious conflict. On the evening of May 13, 2008, Brandon attended a small gathering with friends near Canby, Minnesota. Witnesses later confirmed that Brandon did not appear heavily intoxicated. Around midnight, he left the gathering and began driving toward his home in Marshall, approximately 30 miles away. He never arrived. Sometime after leaving the gathering, Brandon drove his car into a roadside ditch along a gravel road in Lincoln County. The vehicle sustained minor damage but remained operational. There was no collision, no debris, and no indication of involvement by another vehicle. At this point, Brandon made a critical decision. Rather than remaining with the car, he chose to leave it and continue on foot. This decision was based on a faulty assumption. Brandon believed he was near the town of Lind, Minnesota. In reality, he was more than 25 miles away, near Porter. This geographic misunderstanding would define the rest of the case. The Brandon Swanson case remains unresolved due to a convergence of factors. Incorrect assumptions about location, delayed use of available technology, and the irreversible passage of time all contributed to the loss of actionable evidence. What makes this case particularly troubling is that Brandon was actively communicating, moving, and seeking help. Multiple opportunities existed to locate him, yet each one failed. Near the end of the call, Brandon's tone abruptly changed. Without warning, he uttered two words, "Oh, shit." The call immediately disconnected. Brandon never called back. His phone never powered on again. No further communication was recorded. This moment represents the last confirmed evidence of Brandon Swanson's whereabouts. Brandon's parents contacted emergency services immediately. Law enforcement initiated search efforts within hours. Ground teams were deployed, tracking dogs were used, and later, aerial searches were conducted. However, early search operations focused on the area near Lind, not Porter, where Brandon was actually located. By the time the geographic error was corrected, critical time had passed. Later that morning, Brandon's vehicle was located. The car was unlocked. Brandon's glasses were inside. There were no signs of violence, struggle, or forced entry. Despite repeated searches over the following weeks, months, and years, no physical evidence linking Brandon to a specific location was recovered. No clothing belonging to Brandon was ever found. No remains were recovered. No phone activity was recorded after the final call. The absence of physical evidence severely limited investigative progress. Environmental factors, including farmland, waterways, and weather conditions, further reduced the likelihood of recovery over time. Each passing day diminished the chance of locating Brandon or determining what happened to him. Investigators have considered several explanations. Accidental drowning is one possibility, based on Brandon's report of hearing running water. However, extensive searches of nearby waterways yielded no results. Another theory suggests disorientation followed by exposure. While plausible, this does not explain the complete absence of remains despite multiple search efforts. A third theory considers third-party involvement. However, there is no evidence of violence, witnesses, or suspicious activity to support this scenario. Each theory presents unanswered questions, and none can be conclusively proven or eliminated. The Brandon Swanson case remains unresolved due to a convergence of factors. Incorrect assumptions about location, delayed use of available technology, and the irreversible passage of time all contributed to the loss of actionable evidence. What makes this case particularly troubling is that Brandon was actively communicating, moving, and seeking help. Multiple opportunities existed to locate him, yet each one failed. Brandon Swanson did not disappear without warning. He did not vanish without witnesses. He was speaking to his parents, describing his surroundings, and attempting to reach safety. Despite this, the opportunity to locate him was lost. The case remains officially unsolved.